misconstrued or misperceived. The thing that that absolutely wants to be in terms of the communication, especially with staff, is if I were to say, how can I deal with the 2 points you guys just made, which is I want to approach staff because I want some tours of the libraries I've never been to, right? So one of the great ways to do it, or might be to put it on an agenda item, or in response to an agenda item, you're saying, I think it'd be a great idea if each of the commissioners were able to tour every single library. And then you guys could say, yeah, that's a great idea. How best, and then you can actually even ask staff, how best could we organize that, right? And maybe it's commissioners giving each other tours of the library and introduced to staff, because you're not getting more staff visiting there, right? And you could be explicit that, we're here for a tour, and even if you have an issue, it's plain not best that it comes to you directly. You had a personal situation where you knew that the person had already gone through another thing. I think the staff need to be as educated about the right communication with the commissioners as, right? In terms of, I think that they need that too, as well. And that's something that you can have in terms of a discussion with Brett. I'm sure there probably hasn't been an intentional kind of, all staff, this is how you should engage with commissioners.
I'd like to see the reverse of that. I don't know how the staff or the community really feels about the commissioners. I mean, I've never heard any real...
Or if they even know what you do or how to approach it. Or
I mean, I thought before I got on the position that I would get my own parking place. Boy, was I wrong.
Okay.
So
okay.
No,
yeah.
I mean, seriously.
I can't hear you.
Okay, seriously, I'm saying that as a good point, because we're talking about doing policy and procedures here, and we did have a community meetings about other things, but we can't be effective if we don't know how the community views us. So I just want to throw that out.
So.
Sorry, Paul. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say this. I've listened to people talking, I've listened to what they had to say. I have the context of when I first became a commissioner and walked in and looked at this organization, how understaffed it was at the middle with Patrick and all of that part of the staff. But what Tim has had to say about what you want to do is he's exactly hit the nail right on the head, and so did you, Hillary, talking about the macro and the micro and the macro. You need to start at the top and trust the model, and if it takes a while for that model to work, or it doesn't work, you might come back and talk about it in the commission, but you don't create a lot of white noise around why it doesn't work. And I can only speak from my own world. And when you start to get successful in an organization, the functions at the top work. And you don't cut anybody off at the knees, because what you say, it creates a lot of weird shit down below. People start getting, turning red and feeling that somebody was talking about me or doing this. See, you got the right idea, Ted. Everything you said the last 3 times about how you handle that, and you're the chair, and I think you could direct that. You got it. You're right.
And if it's not working for Brett, he'll let you know, right? He'll say, oh, I think you should do, these types of questions should go here or whatever. So, but it's a matter of creating an agreement, right? Because right now, I don't know if the two of you have that agreement or you've just adopted it.
No, we have that agreement.
Okay, all right. So I think that agreement should extend to the commission.
Well, and what I've tried to do lately is somebody says to me that they're concerned about something, I try to say, thank you for telling me, I'll try to talk to Brett about it, but call Brett. You're one of the, I'm not the only one, you're one of the employees, employers.
Right.
So if you have it, talk to him about it.
Okay, great.
You're encouraging the commission members to let
Yes.
us know.
Yeah.
Also, one of the things, if you look at now, what we have going on, what he's got on his plate
Right.
as a leader, he's got you know, the new strategic plan, he's got 3, 4, 5 infrastructure major things he's trying to integrate into the system. He's got the union issue coming up. We have the, you know, we're going to do another fundraiser. And if you look at reading, if you read his, you know, director's notes for our next meeting, that's the longest list I've ever seen. I mean, it's thick. It's like, it's overwhelming. I mean, he's got a lot going on, this guy. And so if you think we're going to be effective as an organization by, you know,
Okay.
not just filling white noise.
Right.
There's also another side to this that I want to be sure to mention. And again, I don't think this is a but, I think this is a yet, because of history. And that we as a commissioner need to also be aware of the fact that the things we hear are important. And we may not need to operate on every element, but if they begin to accumulate, that there's a lot of stuff that's showing there's ineffective management.
Right.
We need to begin to accumulate that information and act on it.
Right.
So it's not a case, what I'm hoping we're not saying is ignore when somebody says something's not correct.
No, I'm
But
not.
add it to the layers of the information of what we're making our decisions.
What I would like to see happen, absolutely, you're not going to ignore things.
Right.
Number one, I want you to be activists in creating a culture that recognizes that there are channels, right? And doesn't try to take back channels, right? By preying on people like yourselves who want to do good, you know? Because then that disintegrates the whole of the organization. The third thing is that try to be as objective as possible, right, in terms of what you're hearing, right? Because you have a legacy issue in terms of staff in this organization
Right.
that is significant. I don't know if you know, but I spent 6 hours with almost 40 staff, maybe a little bit more than 40 staff, from half of them for branches and half of them from central, trying to re-envision central, all right?
When was that?
This was on January 21st.
Is it in? I couldn't be in the
So why did the commission know about that?
I think it was in the management notes, they were doing a meeting on it.
So it was an internal kind of staff capacity building effort. It was also about trying to get a sense of people looking forward. And you know, you got a tough staff to work with because of the history of this organization's its history. And you have individual libraries that have a lot of autonomy, and most of those individual libraries don't want a central library that actually creates a system. They want a central library that supports each of their branches. They want a really big branch, okay? And this system is looking for something that it can celebrate in terms of assets, like the history collection and genealogy, and you know, some of the fact that it is a bigger facility and it has maybe more assets that could be shared by the whole of the county, right? And so Brett is looking for a number of things to happen based upon the strategic plan and also future advocacy for the libraries. Philosophical point of difference in terms of want a jewel in a hub of the whole of the Sonoma County Library System, and Central is just a really big branch, right? Philosophical difference. Very passionate, very heartfelt. Not sure where it's all coming from, but I'm sure it has a lot to do with either buying into something because they're new to the system, or it's the history of being in the system. So when you have that, and when you have a unionized environment and everything else, I actually agree probably that Brett's got a lot on his plate right now, right? So the great thing is that over the course of that day, even though it was tough, we worked through it, and those staff members were able to say, this is how we might actually create an asset out of the central library. And they talked about it in interesting ways and in collaborative ways, and they talked about it in terms of seeing it differently.
Did they talk about Roseland as being part of their family or part of their?
Yes,
relationship?
absolutely,
Thank
yes,
you.
absolutely, absolutely. I had no idea about the issue of the ongoing funding and things like that, but yes, I mean, they, it wasn't, oh, was it open by then?
November, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So you know, the thing I like to say is that you don't have a lot of homogeneity in the library period. You've got different library branches, you've got different legacy staff, you have a whole lot of individuals who were newer to the library with fresh eyes and neat ideas, and you've got a lot of people who are entrenched and don't see a reason to become unentrenched yet, right? So capacity building in the library, I would like for you guys to think about how you support moving forward, rather than having entrenched people kind of keep things from not changing. Yes?
Two things. One is having standard, just what they're called is a form of advocacy because we're all singing from the same page. Okay?
What do you mean what they're called?
A standard operating procedures. That's.
Yes, standard,
They're
yes.
standard.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So that's why we're looking at them.
Uh-huh.
And we should all know what they are.
Right,
So that we can then be the advocates that we
yes,
want to be and are obligated to be as commissioners.
and one of the things is by creating this thing for the labs, you're also creating it for yourself, right? And really kind of anybody else that you are kind of trying to introduce to how to engage with the commission or the labs or the whatever. Yes.
And we're talking about things to bring to labs. Drafts of our standing operating procedures are something that we can begin working with our labs with,
Okay.
which will have an effect of two things. We'll get good ideas, and also they'll begin to understand more about what the library commission is and what it does.
Right.
So that could go.
So, and I think that, and we're going to get to generating a kind of an action plan, which is steps in series. Because I do think that one is, you don't want to cook something too much and then share it with the labs. You have, okay, at this point you've got, all right, I think we're clear on the responsibilities as laid out in the agreement, right?
We're gonna get all this?
Yes. So this is the stuff that's laid out in the agreement. And each of you will ideally commit to going to your labs and saying, okay, so this is kind of what we're clear. We'll create that one page, right? Create that one page. These are kind of the responsibilities laid out in the JPA. These are what we think this is what we were thinking the role of the commission is. And this is what we were hoping or thinking that the role of the labs might be, right? And how they connect. And then you kind of, and again, it's thinking and might be. It's not, here are your roles,
Right.
right? So it's open, it's an open, it's an invitation, right, to a conversation versus a dictation, okay?
So
And
that the JPA is an explicit invitation
I think
to
so.
the labs.
I think so. In terms of, yes, you could interpret the JPA agreement. I think there's way too many ways you could interpret that agreement. And yet there's some clarity in the language. And I think that, that's pretty much it. The open-ended conversation is around the roles piece and how you create roles that support each other, right? Because you want this to be a system that feeds itself. You want labs to feed the commission and the commission to feed the labs, right? Because it wants to, right? Because you both have something to share and to get from each other. Because there's a, what's the word I'm looking for? Symbiotic? Maybe?
Right.
Symbiotic relationship? What I'd like to suggest is, first of all, thank you so much for participating in difficult conversations. I appreciate that. I do. And I'm thinking that before I lose you, 10-minute break, so we can maybe step out and get some fresh air.
Right.
So 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead. I actually say let's go